I'm Zac Sweets, and this is Talk Raytown. I am here with Charlotte Belger, the former president of the Raytown Museum and current archivist. Welcome back. I'm sure everyone watched our episode, and in fact, I've heard a lot about our previous episode.
Did you really?
A lot of good things.
Oh my gosh, that's good. That's good.
And,
Well, I,
and
I had really had a good time. It was fun to do.
now,
You're very easy to talk to.
thank you. Don't tell anybody else.
Okay,
But
I will
you
not tell
might
anyone.
be my favorite guest that we've interviewed. But don't. We'll keep that between us.
Okay, I don't think that's not nice for other people. No,
Yeah,
but it's nice for me. Thank you.
You're such a joy to talk to, and you're really passionate about the history of Raytown, and it's fun. You help make the story of Raytown fun to interact with and to think about. I mean, we'll walk through the museum
Okay.
in just a bit, but just as we were walking through, just kind of talking and getting familiar with the space, you were doing such a great job of storytelling. So let me start there before we really get into the meat of what we're talking about.
Okay.
Where does your joy for storytelling come from?
Well, I think just as a child, I loved hearing stories, and people are very interesting to me. I mean, they're the most interesting thing I know of. And when I get to hear their stories, I love to hear their stories. And I also like to tell their stories because a lot of people are very, well, I guess they're very shy about telling their stories. And there's so many great stories. And I really hate to think about those stories being lost because they didn't feel like they could tell them. So if they want to tell them to me and I can write them down, then they have a story. And believe me, if people hadn't written things down, there would be no history.
Yeah,
You know that, don't you?
absolutely. And honestly, Charlotte, if there was anybody that was probably born to be some archivist, it was probably you. I would love for you to tell my story. I mean, you can see the joy in it, and honestly, to show up, we are here in the Raytown Museum, and for those that watch the show, and for those who listen, they might notice that we're in a different place. Where are
Yeah,
we?
this is kind of different. This is not what you see every
No.
day, but this is basically why Raytown existed. This is the blacksmith shop. It's the Ray's blacksmith shop. William Ray, who had come from Ohio, actually he was on the trail wanting to go to, I believe, Oregon, but when he saw a business opportunity here, he stopped and he put in a blacksmith shop, which was very popular because it was right on the Santa Fe Trail. It was one day from the beginning in Independence, and by the time one day had gone by, already a lot of these wagons were beginning the wheels were beginning to fall off. The unbroken animals that were pulling them had kicked them to death, or they broken their harness. I mean, it was rough. It was very rough.
Dysentery. I'm sorry. That's
Dysentery
a game.
too.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
that too. Probably the animals had dysentery. I'm not really sure.
Yeah.
We didn't talk. We didn't get any.
Well, and then you also have this picture here too, of just how high the water was that they would have to cross through.
Oh, they had to cross. I mean, you know, you had to cross through a lot of things, up rocky hills, down
Mhm.
rocky hills, through the water, through mud. I mean, you name it, they had to go through it. So that kind of get that. I don't know that that's going to show, but that's practically floor high in that wagon.
And
And
for
so
those animals, it's to their chest.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And they had, and everything they had that they were bringing to exist on were in those wagons. So let's hope it doesn't all get wet, you know, because that doesn't work so well. But it was a hard time, and you know, you really had to want to explore and get new land for yourself. That was the draw, that you were able to claim
Yeah.
land, so they could, you know. I don't know exactly what situation they were in before they left wherever their original home was, but the promise of new land and being able to start on your own was was very much of a pull. It must have been.
And for somebody to think, maybe I'll give up on my adventure and start a business. I mean, there's almost no way that Ray had an idea, his idea turned. He didn't know it turned into a city,
I don't think he planned that.
but he
No.
knew that it was a good spot.
Yeah.
So
Well,
what
he
are
knew he could make some money.
absolutely? What are some of the artifacts that we see back here?
Well, I'm sitting in front of a lot of the artifacts, but the kiln, there's the big baffle thing
Oh
here
yeah.
that does this, that makes the fire in this pit, and this is where they would take the. Let's see if I can put my hands on something here without tripping on all this. Okay, for instance, they would if we were oh here, let's do this. If we were trying to form this,
The horseshoe.
which you
Yeah,
had to do,
absolutely.
you would heat it here until it got to be pliable, and then you would put it on the anvil, and then you would take, maybe not this one, but something like this, and he would beat it out. See how I just
Okay.
beat it out of my own hand.
Yeah.
But so it was quite an art, actually, to be able to do this, and it did take a lot of equipment. So that's basically what it was. But they, the wheel. I was going to say tires. They're not tires. They're wheels, with the wooden
yeah.
spokes. They would come out. I mean, if you went over the rocks and all that, which you had to do, they would break, and so then those had to be formed. So it was quite the thing.
I mean, I'm sure Ray was just having
Oh,
just a great time.
he was having a wonderful time. Yeah. No, I
But
think,
that,
I think he definitely had an idea of where he wanted to go.
yeah.
Raytown was not where he wanted to go.
But he
It-
created a destination.
He did. And so because he had, by the time this village had grown to the point where it needed to be named, just because they knew that he had the blacksmith shop and it was in this location, they called it Raytown.
Was there, from the records and the stories that you found, was there any real debate? Was it just kind of a
No,
unanimous?
no,
This is
no,
Ray's town.
no.
And how long did Ray roughly live in this area and finally pass?
3 years is all he lived.
Just
here.
3 years.
He didn't pass. He left. He stayed here for 3 years, and then he left, and he went to Oregon like he wanted to.
Oh wow.
And that's where he spent the rest of his life, had the rest of his family, and died there.
That is, well, not the last part, but that's fantastic. And to think that he just set up shop, probably squirreled away some.
I don't think he ever knew that it was named for him.
That's incredible.
I don't think he ever lived to know that, but his descendants did.
Okay.
And when the historical marker that is at the corner of 63rd and Raytown Road was dedicated, many members of his family came from Oregon for that.
Wow. So he still has descendants in Oregon.
Yep.
They know that their great, all the greats, grandfather.
They knew it, but I don't think he did.
That's incredible. Wow. And it's still a busy intersection. It's still a major part of the city.
That's right.
So this city is only 75 years old. We're going to be celebrating 75 years of Raytown here next month in July. But something tells me, from what I'm seeing, this equipment and period pieces here, they're older than 75 years.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, we would put these at 175 years. It has been said that Raytown had been a village anyway for 100 years before it ever became a city. So judging from that, uh, we're calling it 175 years.
Wow. So if anybody's confused about the 75 years, 175, it's the unofficial and then the official.
That's it exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what would have had to have been done 75 years ago for this area to go from a village to officially becoming Raytown?
Well, I think that I'm not really all that sure about that. In my other script that I have from last time, it told me, and I can't remember now. Uh, I think people had to petition to uh, become a city,
Mm-hmm.
and so one of the main petitioners was a man by the name of Leroy Cox, whose family had been here for many generations already, and he really drove that wagon
Process.
to get
Yeah.
that done, and so he did.
And for his family to be here
Mhm.
for many generations, we're seeing about 100 years difference. That's not hard to believe that they would remember Ray or have an understanding that Ray helped make this.
Very possibly
Yeah,
so.
absolutely.
Very
And
possibly.
that name I saw when we walked through the last name Cox.
Mhm.
Tell me a little bit more about that family and their importance to Raytown's starting.
Well, they were. I'm not quite sure if I remember where they had come from, but they had come on the trails to here. They very first were located uh, just a few miles from here, on probably 160 acres that they were allowed by the government to settle if you were a man,
Hmm.
if you were 21 years old, at least 21 years old, and if you uh, signed I guess maybe like a contract that you would stay on that 160 acres for at least 5 years, and in that 5 years, you would uh, you would improve the land. I mean, cut down
Hmm.
trees, whatever you had to do to improve it so that it was useful land. So basically, the first thing they probably did was cut down all the trees.
Sure.
And also, they needed the trees. Why do you think they needed the trees?
Got to build things, don't you?
That's right. That's what they built their house out of. That's the log cabins. So they needed the trees, and they needed the trees to be out of the way, and they needed them to build their houses.
Yeah,
So it all fit.
absolutely. Now, let me ask because I did see a few Native American pieces throughout
Mm-hmm.
the museum. What was that like in this part of Missouri when folks were coming to settle and starting Raytown? I think I'd be remiss to just blanket over
Oh, yeah,
that part of
absolutely.
history.
Well, it does get blanked over a lot, which is really very, very bad as far as I'm concerned, because the white men took it away from the Indians. This was their home,
Hmm.
and in particular, this area, the main tribe from this area were Osage Indians.
Okay.
And you have every reason to think that the Osage Indians were all over, and then as you move through the country, you have different tribes, of
Hmm.
course. But yeah, they came and took it from them.
And just started building, like you said, getting pieces of land and building on it, and claim the government allowed them to claim it. You said 5 years? That
Mhm.
doesn't seem like a long time to say this is now mine. Did
It
we?
seems like it wasn't or
It
was.
was not.
Okay.
Yeah. Did we see a lot of people end up staying? It sounded like at
I
least the
think a
Cox
lot of people. I,
family
I think a
stayed for
lot of people
generations,
did, and
right?
then of course a lot of people did not. William Ray did not.
Sure.
You know, Um, to tell you the truth, I don't know. Okay, we know he has a blacksmith shop, but where did he live? Because
Hmm.
he had a wife and a lot of children, and so he lived somewhere.
Someone's got to
It,
help him here.
well, yeah, absolutely. And unfortunately, children were kind of what you call the main suspects when it came to help,
Hmm.
whether it's on the farm or in a blacksmith shop or whatever. I mean, whatever you do.
There's a reason why we have child labor laws.
Yes, yes,
Blacksmith shops might not be the best place for.
no, but I doubt that that was a concern
Sure.
or a problem then. But as we become more sophisticated,
Yes.
we don't like seeing little children with terrible jobs.
And
We save those for the big people.
yes, for the adults. And so as to your point, the city, the area became more sophisticated. We see some development relative to the time. Um, Raytown kind of goes through a bit of a population boom at some
Oh,
point.
absolutely did go through a big boom, and uh, we'll go to the next room, and I'll show you kind of what the impetus of that was. It was all not all at once. I mean, certainly people had lived here for many years after the settlers came, but many of those families who had come in that way, their family stayed here, and they made it their home. It became a very popular place to live. Raytown did, because I mean, well, we called it Raytown before it was named Raytown officially as a city, but we were so close to Kansas City,
Hmm.
and Kansas City was already getting crowded, and people didn't really want to live just right on top of each other. So you
Sounds
could,
like a decades old, like just multiple generations story, right? Of like,
right?
oh,
Yeah,
there's the big city. Let's get out
yeah.
and
We loved
find
it at first,
a
but now we don't
community.
like it so much.
Sure,
Yeah. So
sure.
Raytown was a real popular place. Also Lee Summit, also
Hmm.
Grandview. You know, any of the smaller towns around Kansas City became popular.
It's I mean I see Raytown Mercantile. I see Raytown Reflections talking about the growth in Raytown today. Um, I'm just curious. I'm gonna here. You asked me to give you some softballs, but I want you to use your imagination.
All right.
What do you think some of the founding families might think about what they see today and going through that petition process to actually create this city? They again, Ray could had no idea, couldn't have known that this would be here. But even the founding
He was not
families,
coming here to form a city around himself.
yeah.
No.
But what do you
Well,
think if you
are
put
you
yourself in
saying
those stories?
from then till now,
Yeah,
today in
75
2000?
years ago.
Okay. Well, I think the people in 1950 that were part of the new city of Raytown would frankly be very disappointed in what they see now. And I hate to say that because we are here to preserve and to document and to champion Raytown because we love it.
Hmm.
But the thing is that a lot of people who live here now do not love it like we want them to. One of the main things that I always wanted to do when I first came here 23 years ago, um, I saw that decline in civic pride. Let's call it that. It's the best thing I can say.
Hmm.
I saw the decline in that, and with that decline comes the decline of everything. Uh, People don't take as good a care of their homes, their yards. They are not as
It's the engagement.
engaged. Yeah,
Yeah, and
exactly.
not just with their own things, but maybe with their community. And I mean, and this is not a Raytown conversation, is it?
No.
You said 1950. I'm thinking about the First World War and the society that came after that, the civic society, and that brought people together. I mean, we saw,
You know, unfortunately, wars bring people together. Isn't that pitiful? But
yeah,
it is true.
and so during that time, we saw a lot. I mean, some of the American Legion, the Rotary Club,
Oh
like a
my
lot of
goodness.
these civic groups had brought people out together. Well, you knew your neighbor if you weren't related to them, and could really help build that engagement with a city, with a community is what we're talking
That
about.
is exactly what Raytown was in those years.
Hmm.
You could not have found a more engaged and community spirited little city anywhere. And that's why we loved it. And of course, I was in high school in the 1950s, and so was my husband. Well, he was my husband then, but he became my
He
husband.
didn't know yet.
He didn't know he was my husband. Uh, yeah, it was the best place to live. My family and I had lived in Kansas City. I was set to go to one of the big high schools in Kansas City. I couldn't wait to get in it. I was just thrilled to be going to, I won't name it, but it was one of the biggest high schools. And at that point, when I was in seventh grade, my dad decided we were going to now turn into farmers.
Oh, so even in the what? We're almost in the 60s?
No, that would have been when we moved here. It was in 1948.
48.
Yeah,
Okay. So one thing that I found really interesting, and I'm kind of burying what we're gonna see, is I saw that one of the former mayors, and I forget his name, but his last name was Cox. He was part of the Cox
Leroy
family.
Cox. Mhm.
He was former mayor and police chief. He has a badge in there in one of the glasses. So Raytown has a history of mayors being on the force in Raytown. But the reason why I go that direction is I've heard Mayor McDonough talk about his family coming out here and seeing horses and like, where's this farm town that you brought me to? Raytown, little rural, in the 40s, 50s, maybe even through the 60s,
Yeah.
even being so close to Kansas City.
Yeah, yeah. For instance, where my father bought the land that we lived on, it was 160 acres. Then he even bought more. We had we lived in a 100-year-old farmhouse with no plumbing.
My,
Yeah, that was lovely.
you've
Thank
come
you,
a long
Dad.
way.
My mother, bless her heart. Anyway, um, we're in this two-story, 100-year farmhouse. And did you ever see the movie Giant, where there's this house and there's like nothing around for,
Can't find your neighbors.
can't,
Yeah.
no, nobody's here. Nobody, that was what it was like. That's how much empty ground there was. And we weren't, that wasn't unusual for us. The closer you got to town, of course, the more concentrated were the homes.
Yeah. So in the 75-year story of the official city of Raytown, when did we start to see parts of, and maybe even why did we see parts of the city that we're starting to see now, where it's filled in and it's developed?
Uh, well, I'd say probably in about 1953, 4, like that. We have aerials upstairs that are really telling, and we can pick out the places that had been here for a while. Even this museum, which was a fire station, but there's lots of ground around. But then, just in a few years after that, that all started filling in. So you don't see, as you drive around town now, you don't see anywhere that's a large space.
Mm-mm. No. And to your point, when you walk into the museum, there is a plaque that talks about this being the first
Hmm.
firehouse
Yes,
in Raytown.
yes.
So there's a lot of history just still on this at this intersection.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, yeah.
And
That was in 1945. This
okay,
building was built, so it's 80 years old now.
still standing, still going strong.
Yeah, and we've had it. Well, the Raytown Historical Society has had it since 43 years. We've been here 43 years,
Okay.
and many additions and many, let's say, repairs,
Sure.
because that's what happens with a building. But we're delighted to be on what we consider the main drag in Raytown,
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean,
63rd Street.
we can hear the world going by.
Oh, yes, we can.
And I appreciate you bringing us into the museum and kind of what we were talking about just a bit ago about the connection to the city and the engagement and knowing your neighbor. That's part of, I would assume, the mission of telling the story of Raytown, so people can know and find that little bit of connection to know if their family lived here once, or even just where am I now? What is Raytown?
We have people that come in all the time who have not lived here maybe all that long, and now they're beginning to want to know what was, I mean, what was this like before? What was here before? Who owned my house before?
Hmm.
Well, some of that we can help them with, and some of it we cannot. We don't keep up with the real estate.
Sure.
But except for there are a few key homes here in Raytown that have been here for a long, long time, and they're kind of famous. And we do know who has lived in those homes. But other than that, we can't really tell you that. But we can show them. We can show them plat maps that will give the names of the people who owned that land before their homes were built on it. But people get curious finally when your lives slow down to the point where it's just not a blur.
Hmm.
You don't know that yet, but
I'm starting to. Things are getting quicker. 30, once you get past 30, it just speeds up, but I'll save
30,
that.
30?
Well, mid-30s, but we won't
Oh,
tell
no,
everybody.
I'm not doubting you.
Yeah.
I'm just thinking that was so long ago. Oh, well, anyway, the thing is that people don't pay any attention to that type of thing when you're a young person trying to make a living, having a family, and then what, the 22 years it takes to raise those
Hmm.
children. Things go by so quickly. It's just like a streak. You just barely have time to know it's time to brush my teeth today.
Sure.
But when that slows down, I don't know of anybody who is not interested to know, okay, now let's look backwards. Let's look, if you could live your life backwards, it would make a lot more sense.
Sure. Yeah.
You find out, oh, that happened to me then. I thought that was so horrible or so good or so what or so weird. See how that it starts fitting. And that's what people want to do. They want to fit those puzzle pieces together of their own lives.
And when you put some of the puzzle pieces around us of Raytown's story, what do you think is the through line?
Well, I think it's a collective history. I think that if a person knows, okay, in that decade that I'm wondering about, this is what was happening around here. This is what was happening in my schools. This is what was happening in the world. It all starts clink, 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 another piece, another piece, another piece.
Yeah.
And you know what? Before we die, we want to know the whole story. If you don't mind, please.
Yeah.
But you got to do it probably for yourself. You got to find the pieces and put them in.
Absolutely. I think now is a great time to maybe see some of these puzzle pieces that we're talking about. Okay, so we've moved in the time machine. We're in the 1930s?
No, we're in, well, these photographs, these aerials are actually from 1934.
Okay.
But what I want to show you here is how the population boomed, maybe because of this airport. Does that make any sense?
It absolutely does. So what we're looking at is an aerial of what is Raytown as we now know it, or at least part of it. And a big part, is this an airfield?
This is an airfield, and it goes Okay, let's see. All this, well, all the blank ground
And this is Blue Ridge Cutoff,
and
what we know,
that is Blue Ridge. This,
50 Highway.
this is 350 Highway here. This is Gregory.
Okay.
Okay. Probably the only thing that you can recognize today, do you see this little loop right
Yeah.
here? That was the beginning of the driveways that went into Floral Hills Cemetery. Floral
Okay.
Hills Cemetery was built in 1930, started in 1931. So that's why we think that these photographs are from about 34, because they've already put in a lot of their infrastructure for that.
Yeah.
You can see,
Some homes, a good amount of
yeah,
homes.
we've got some homes that are clustered here. There is an area called Laurel Heights in Raytown, and there are, it looks like about 3 or 4 little buildings right there, and they sit on 350, now 350 Highway, used to be 50 Highway. They're still there. So this is Gregory, and this is Gregory. This is the highway. Okay, so why I want to show you this is because this airport was dedicated in 1922, and it was dedicated because this young man, right here, by the name of Lieutenant John Francis Richards, was the first person to be killed in World War I as a pilot. His parents were wealthy business owners in Kansas City, and they established this tract of land as an airfield to be named for him. So in 1922, it was called Richards Field.
Was it very active?
Very active, very active. It was one of the very first airports in our area.
Okay.
So it was very active, and in fact, these are the kinds of planes that you would be seeing coming in and out. And
Just like we see with the propeller here,
yeah,
same kind of wooden.
say a wooden propeller,
Yeah.
open cockpit, no meals being served,
Unfortunately.
because there was only one guy on that plane, and he was the one in driving, doing the plane. Anyway, okay, so I digress. So, yes, it was a very active airfield, and in fact, the very first air mail came to our area at this airport.
Really? It didn't fly into Kansas City.
No,
It flew
right
in
here.
right here.
Right here. And there would be a plane would come from Chicago to here, and from Dallas to here. They each had carried mail bags. They
Did the
exchanged
exchange? Yep.
their load, and it took 9 hours to get. I mean, each city took 9 hours.
That's incredible. So what you're telling me, which I didn't know. I mean, I knew about the airfield, but I didn't know that Raytown has a place in, we'll just say, mail and aviation history.
Absolutely.
In terms of getting people's letters or even packages transported across the country. I mean, north to south is what it sounded like, from Chicago all the way down to Dallas.
Yeah.
And they stopped right here in Raytown.
Right here. Yeah.
It's incredible. Now, for those of us that are familiar with the Kansas City area, Richards, any connection to the Richards Gebauer?
Yes.
That used to be a little bit further south
Yeah.
of here.
Richards Gebauer is in Grandview, and it's a hyphenated name, and the Richards part is named for him. Gebauer is another man, and it's not a functioning airfield now.
Sure, but at one point in time, we had what was, maybe not a private airfield, but an airfield that was named after the first lieutenant that eventually became a commissioned base.
Yes.
Yes. An actual in-use military base. So it's no small piece of history. I just wanted to note that.
Yeah, it's a very important piece of history. But why I wanted you to see this in particular is because of the fact that um, this airfield had started, as I say, in 1922. By the time 1945 came, it was very small for the larger planes.
Sure.
So now we're having wrecks and we're having problems here. So the gentleman that owned the airfield at that point, whose name was Ong, O-N-G, decided to close the airfield and build homes on it.
Okay.
So he and a builder, a very famous builder by the name of Sid Hare, built all this up in homes, and starting in 1945. Why 1945? Because the World War II was over, and all these servicemen and women were coming home, and they needed places to live and places that they could afford to buy. So all around the country and in our area, this section was built into homes that GIs could buy on loan, their GI loan.
Yeah.
So what that did, you think about 405 houses, you think about maybe 3 or 4 people in each house, all including little kids.
Mm-hmm.
They all had to have a place to go to school, and we did not have the places for them to go to school.
I think we'll learn a little bit more about that
We will.
further.
Yes.
But this is a large part of the boom.
That right there was one of the largest booms that we've ever had in Raytown. So Gregory, did I say that this is called Gregory Heights? This is what it's called.
Okay.
Did you know of that by any means?
Why is that?
It was called that because of one of the flyers, one of the pilots was named Gregory. And they named it after him, Gregory Heights.
Must have been a real popular frequenter of the area.
I don't exactly know all that much about him. But anyway, this all turned into 405 houses.
That's incredible. It's hard to imagine that many. 400 plus
yeah,
homes.
well, drive by it one day. They're all still there. They're all still lived in. Yes.
So a few other binders I think were really full of information. Look at this. I mean, it's bigger than my head. We have the Cox family history, and you mentioned the Cox family earlier.
Yes.
Why is it important to have this family's story? Like you said, you talked about it earlier. They are part of the family. The reason why we have Raytown as an incorporated city. But talk about a little bit. What is their story, their history, their contribution?
Well, their contribution had been huge in this particular family, and starting with this man, Leroy Cox, starting probably with his probably grandfather, who had homesteaded here and had owned a lot of land. They were the kind of people who were entrepreneurs. They figured out businesses, and they one after the other, different businesses. One of the biggest businesses that this company had was a company called Cox Pipeline Company, and pipeline was what it sounds like. They were going all over the country, and mainly here in the middle of the country, laying pipelines for water for
business had to be booming to have a car like this in the 1920s. I mean, look at that.
I think they always did pretty well.
Yeah.
And they should have, because they helped a lot of people through the years. But they were one of the here's a where did we go? That's
from the 1950s, Diamond International truck with the pipeline you were talking, or the pipe they laid.
Yes.
Man, that's quite impressive. And so, like, it was that kind of industrious spirit, if you will.
Exactly. Yes. And they, they stayed here and they made things better all the while they were here. Actually, when Raytown became the city in 1950, the very first mayor was this guy,
Oh,
this Leroy Cox.
this gentleman that thinks
He,
he's John Wayne.
yeah, that guy.
Look at him. All right. I do want to keep moving into the alumni room.
Okay.
But one thing I'm going to come back to is I see the history of Kauffman Stadium and Arrowhead Stadium. So if anybody is interested in general, I don't know why, not anything that's in the news. Maybe they should come to the Raytown Historical Society,
They
the
can do
Raytown
that.
Museum,
We
to
can
learn a bit some
we
of that
can
history.
tell them about it. Absolutely.
All right. Charlotte, we are in the alumni room.
True.
And this was actually really cool for me to walk through because, of course, I think people might think a city's museum will go through the founding, right? We started with the Ray's blacksmith shop, and we kind of walked through the different periods. We looked at the pictures and the binders to kind of get us through some of the early 1900s. But one thing I did not expect was the history of the schools, to be able to find people. Just before we walked in here, you kind of pointed out like we got the elementary school records and the other side of the spectrum records. So
Yes.
as long as you're in Raytown,
We got you covered.
we got you covered.
We do.
But
We do.
one thing that I always find really interesting is you can kind of tell a bit about a city by the growth and expansion of their education system. And so we're sitting here now, we're looking at these high school graduating classes. I see 1937, 38, and they're decent sized schools or classes. You pointed out that before even we had this, they would go out into a field and bunch everybody together and get a nice little picture. What's going to happen in the 1930s, 35, 37, mid 30s here?
Well, in these years, we're kind of rocking along, with the same amount of students. Actually, something that's kind of interesting, we're in 1935 here. So there are the high school collages from 1932, I believe they start, clear through 1977. In 1977, we'll see that the students, there became so many students that they didn't fit on these things anymore. They had to do it a different way. But the thing was that the little kids, okay, so remember we were at Richards Field.
Yep.
We were
400 houses.
Gregory Heights.
Yep.
Imagining the little kids that would generate for 11 years in succession. There was one grade school built every year for 11 years.
Oh, wow.
So can imagine how many little kids. Okay, so these people, they're far from 1950, so they didn't experience any of that. But in the first place, the yearbook of 1909, this is the very first yearbook that was ever printed.
That's in great shape. 1909?
1909.
Wow.
Do you know how many graduating classes, how many people? 12. But they're all right here.
So we go from 1909 with 12 students just all fitting in this book. And if you don't mind, I'm going to pull this over and we end up, get one more here. We end up in the year is 1962. So we fast forward, and man, did Raytown have quite the expansion.
That's right, because all those little kids were the ones that moved in the 50s.
And so now, like, we go from a small book to filling this out.
That's right.
And no short time, they probably can't get. I mean, if you kind of look at the first pictures, they were big pictures, and now we're getting smaller and smaller. You
They're going to
pointed
get
out,
smaller even yet. Yeah. Yeah.
and so we're seeing the generations, the growth of a city in the high school kind of graduating classes.
Okay, so if these guys graduated in 1962, okay, so do the math, 1950 to 1962, 12 years.
Mm-hmm.
Ta-da!
So these are some of our.
These are the little kids that came in.
And so that's what part of the storytelling that we were talking about earlier, that you get to, you have the joy of doing, and pulling some of this information together. And when you walk through the museum and seeing this, I mean, this is living history.
Do you know how it seems silly? Most all these people have their yearbook from when they graduated. It's the picture in the yearbook is the same one that's on these collages.
Mm-hmm.
But somehow, to come into the museum, walk up to one of these things, open it to their place, and find their own face is just astounding to them. But in many cases, they not only find their own face, they can go back there and find their grandparents' face because they stay. See?
Yeah. This is a great story, right? The story of going from Raytown to the airfield and what that airfield turned into, and we're seeing what that airfield turned into. The physical history is all around us. But one question that just I think is really important to ask is, what do you think? Let's go another 75 years from today. As you mentioned before, today's just news or just happenings around us is going to be someone's history in 75 years. Physical artifacts or pictures or media. I'll just share. I love music. And one of the things that I've run into is sometimes I can't find some of those old CDs and albums that I loved. And so now I'm wanting to go maybe find those vinyls, find those CDs. So
well, we don't have them.
Well, no, but the reason why
Yeah.
I bring that up is like there is a place for
Sure,
physical
absolutely.
markers of history.
Yeah.
What do you think it'll be like to try to have a city museum when we're 75 years from today, when a lot of things are digital or maybe even not recorded, when they're written down or found in a book?
As far as the physical pieces go, well, let's just take this desk
Sure.
for an example. Things like this tell the story in their own way. Things like this tell their story in another way. So there's all kinds of ways to tell stories. I kind of fear for the written word mainly, with the internet being so is so convenient.
Mm-hmm.
And let's face it, we're lazy. Would you rather sit at your computer at home in the comfort of your home and learn something, or do you want to traipse around town and do it?
I mean, you're asking the wrong person.
Oh yeah, I'm asking the wrong person.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I think there's a huge amount of people that do not want to traipse around town, but they do want to know.
Yeah.
But yeah, we are in a position now where, for instance, the histories that we've kept that are in the white binders that we looked at before, we have, let's say, binders this big on a family. A person comes in and sees it and said, "Oh my God, I didn't know you had this. How did you have this?" I mean, well, it's because your ancestors fed it to. I mean, they brought it to us. That's why we have it. That's why you don't have it, because they gave it to us.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so now they want to know. I want to send that to all my relatives that are all around the country that can't come into the Raytown Historical Society and see your binder. Oh, I understand that. So now we are working at digitalizing those things. Digitizing, is that the word? I'm sorry. so that that person in Pennsylvania can see the same book that this guy that walked in here did. So that's, I'm afraid, what's going to happen. So how many people are going to keep walking in this door, I don't know. But the thing is that we are collecting it, and it's possible to be done. Otherwise, I'm afraid. I'm afraid that there's going to be so much lost
Hmm.
because people are just not really thinking about the fact that if you don't keep it somehow, it's going to be gone. Nobody is ever going to talk about it again.
And I can't help but think about something that you said earlier, and kind of as we were walking through, is these are collective puzzle pieces. I mean, these are puzzle pieces that in the aggregate make a collective story. So
That's right.
whereas you might have, the Historical Society and the Raytown Museum may have gotten this from one source,
Hmm.
or maybe some of the yearbooks we see. I see some old football helmets. Someone wore those helmets. Someone's family, someone's ancestors, as you mentioned, had held that, and someone's family had memories around these individual pieces and brought them here, and so that they could collectively tell the story of Raytown.
Exactly. And I don't know. Is it just as important to see an image of that, or would you rather look at the real helmet?
Right.
You know, and maybe that's just a matter of taste. But yeah, I'm not sure where it's all going, but I know this, that as long as we're able, we will collect this so it is available to people that are interested.
One final really important question. I live in Raytown. I find some artifact in a home I just bought in Raytown, or my grandparents are moving out of their home in Raytown. What can people in Raytown today do to not just help the museum, but help tell the story of Raytown? What is the call to action?
Well, we get calls like this every day about just such a thing. My grandparents are, deceased, were cleaning out their home. This object seems like it might be important. I mean, it's kind of up to each person to understand that that might be something that is important in the scheme of things. And they will call us, or they'll come here, and they'll, either bring it with them. We'd really rather they just take a photograph of it and send it digitally to us, because of the fact that there's a lot of things that people want to give you that we just, I mean,
Sure.
physically can't take. And so rather than cause them the trip and what have you. But if we decide that that is an important thing that drives the history of Raytown along, it's got to have something to do with Raytown. And if we decide that, then they come here, and we do the change, we do the gift certificate and what have you, and then we find out everything we can about that object. So there's a story that goes with it. It's not just an object. That
There's like you said, there's history. There's a connection to this Raytown story.
right.
Well, I could stay in here for hours. I see a whole chest of maps that we could just go through and see the development. If you were to put it in a flip book, I'm sure that would be really awesome to see. But thank you for inviting Talk Raytown in here. Thank you to everybody that contributed to making this museum possible with artifacts and time and otherwise. Charlotte, final thoughts.
Uh, I am delighted that you are here. I have wanted you to be here. I want other people to see what we have and to understand. And most of all, I want everyone to think about their own story, their own lives, and don't let it be lost. It's going to be, if you don't even think your own story is worth telling, people down the line are going to want it, and they're going to wish they knew.
Mm-hmm.
And if you can tell it, why wouldn't you? Why wouldn't you? And so I just hope people do that. That's a big desire of mine.
Our stories are bigger than social media.
Absolutely.
Well, thank you very much.
You're welcome. It's a pleasure to have you.
Um, I, I'm. It was a pleasure to be here. I'm so honored to be able to have this conversation with you. Thank you for listening and watching. Again, if you've not been in this building, stop by. You'll find Charlotte, no better storyteller in the area, and make sure that you listen to the next episode of Talk Raytown. And by the way, if you missed the incredible chemistry that we have on camera, and when we're having a podcast, go back and listen to our first episode. Charlotte is a joy. But thank you as always for listening to Talk Raytown. I'm Zac Sweets. I haven't asked this question, and I feel like I should.
What is that?
When can I come to the museum?
Well, this is the time, these are the times that you can come. You can come on Thursdays, on Fridays, from 10 o'clock till 2 o'clock each of those days. We are limited in our volunteers, so that is why our hours are so few. But if you want to set up a tour of just a couple or 10 or 50, all you have to do is call us at the museum and say, may we come this day, and this is how many, and we're happy to take you on a tour.
I'll be honest, I was afraid to ask because I knew you, so I could just call you. But for everybody else,
you call the Raytown Historical Museum at area code 816-353-5033.
Call.
Thank you.